Advantage Athletic Therapy, personalized rehabilitation programs with a whole body approach. Enjoy the podcast.
Dave Scott Hub Media. It's the May 26th show with Barb from Healthy, Well, and Wise. And the topic today is energy. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, the little things and energy.
Okay.
Wow. May is a beautiful time to talk about energy because with spring happening, we see that dynamic force that's been stagnant all, fall and winter and everything sort of springing to life. Yeah, and we were talking earlier and was mentioning that it'll be 43 years this year that my hubby and I have been married. And
Congratulations.
yeah, it's,
Good.
and still happy about it. Still glad that he's,
Well, I hope so.
and not just on air. Okay.
Yes.
That
43 years. I don't know. I can't even, I'm trying to think what we are, 32. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, yeah. No,
it's an interesting journey, and you can really, I don't know about you, but I always find it, you learn so much from each other as those years go on, right? And you use that energy. You can sort of build off that energy sometimes too, as well.
and I think that, even though we were young when we got married, um, that has always been something we understood and has worked in our favor. Because relationships, it's those little things in the everyday that we've always recognized are the important points. Um, for instance, warming up a mug before you pour a tea or coffee. It's just this little sign that you take that time to be aware of what the other person likes. And I had somebody tell me that their daughter and husband broke up over that the husband thought that was absolutely ridiculous to have to take that extra little step. And I was just like, wow, that's, that is quite something. I mean, over the years we've had a lot of challenging experiences in life, and but it's those little things, it's with Mother's Day approaching. Please don't get me a huge bouquet of cut flowers. Don't buy me jewelry. Don't buy me a box of chocolates. It's showing up every day that we've figured out is what works for us. Some grandiose gesture because Hallmark has decided it should be an event, is it's not going to fix that every day. And when we understand that and you have that connection, and that translates into the rest of our families and to our communities and, just connecting with society as a whole is, we talked earlier about when you're out in public, perhaps at a cafe or a restaurant, it's like the way you treat that person that's there as your server. That's an energy exchange too. Like it's all energy. And when we start to actually pay attention to that and realize that that interconnectedness is such a massive and continual current, and that affects and informs us at the cellular level in every aspect of our lives.
And I think too, when you're talking about energy, I like the three categories. I think there's really positive, there's a neutral, and there's a negative.
Yeah.
In my world, right? And I think that sometimes you get stuck in that neutral and you're not really sure which way to go. But at the same time, as long as I agree with you, when you're married, as long as we have been, your partner very well, and you understand what makes their day a little brighter. And it's always important to share those moments both ways. But at the same time, if you're out in the public, and, I'll get stuck in neutral once in a while in a large group. Maybe I just don't have that vibe. I don't wanna it's not right for me or something, or, maybe there's a negative energy with an incident. But at the same time, I'm always looking for a way to make that a positive, and I think that's kinda where you're going to, isn't it?
It is in every interaction. whether it's with a human, with an animal, with a tree, with a flower. There's still an exchange there. And yeah, it's actually, I'm glad you said that because I use that in the context of consultations all the time with my clients when it comes to the food choices that they're making. Is when we break it down into neutral, positive, and negative, there are foods that sustain us. They're a healthy food. They don't take away, but they don't necessarily take us next level either. And then there are foods, and this will be different for everybody. And a lot of this goes to blood type as well. But there are foods that can take us next level with our energy. So it's not just that calorie in, calorie out, but it's actually doing marvelous things for the cells and building the body up. And then there are the foods that drain the batteries.
Yeah.
And these foods it can still be a healthy food for somebody else. It's just not your food. And that's no different than being in a situation with another person, whether it's in your workspace, your workplace, um, out in public. Like we are energy conduits and we can choose to take on energy from other people, or we can guard a little bit against it because it's all a little bit too much. We can be drained by the people around us or the situations that we feel that we're stuck in. But the fact is, yeah, at the very cellular level, we would not exist if there were not energy.
Yeah.
Every single cell in our bodies is this miraculous communication throughout the entire body and brain. And so we are affected, by energy more so if we're unaware of that correlation. And so making sure that we're grounding ourselves is very important. Best way to do that, and we've talked about that before, is being out in nature, bare feet on the grass or the soil, hugging a tree if that's your thing. I'm a tree hugger. I love hugging trees. But yeah, it's energy is a really, really fascinating thing, and it can work for or against us. But I personally believe that when we are out in other, public places, that exchange of energy that we're sharing with the people that are around us is so vitally important. And it can make somebody's day because you don't know what's going on in the background of their life.
Yeah.
No idea. They may have a smile on their face, but if you really look, you see it doesn't reach their eyes. You see the body language, things like that. So we have such a profound ability to actually give a damn and make a difference with the energy that we're sharing with one another.
When folks come to see you, let's say for an intake, and it's your first time meeting them, obviously you're sizing them up and you're rating down everything, but do you see a lot of low energy? Like, is that, I mean, we talked about the nutrition, the mental health side of it, the physical side of it. Like when they're coming in for a consult with you, um, talk about that for a minute, because I don't think people, like in your case with what you do, I don't think enough people understand what that consult's going to do to help that energy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that initial consult, it shifted a lot in the few years that I've been practicing in my home office. It's been a very interesting phenomenon because the needs of people have have really taken a swing. And it's something that they're often not aware of themselves until they come in and they sit down. So it can be a really emotional journey for some people, that first intake, um, because what they've written on the forms to bring with them doesn't often turn out to be exactly what they need to talk about that day.
Uh,
And so while there's sort of a bit of a preset anticipatory plan there, it does sometimes get very diverted by what the immediate needs turn out to be. Um, and I think that one of the things that people tell me that matters the most to them is that number one, they feel like they're in a safe space. Number two, they know they're being heard and that there's absolutely no judgment. It's always confidential. I mean, it's just, um, but it's just a connectivity that occurs, and that's something that I always try to address with people prior to that consult is that you need to have that connection with the person that you're
Yeah.
working with, that you're revealing to, that are, people have a lot of baggage maybe if they know that they're doing things that are detrimental that they just don't know how to stop doing. And to know that there's zero judgment. I'm not better than anybody else. I have my own challenges too. But to know that it is a space that a common ground can be determined, that neutral ground, to find those little steps, those little things that they can start to implement to get that energy moving in the right direction. Because, yeah, at the cellular level of our bodies, when we continually pretend that everything is okay, you can lie to other people, but you can't lie to the cells of your body. And that energy gets trapped and stored in there. And it can actually become different ailments, chronic ailments, or tumors, or things like that. So it's really, really important for people to understand um, that energetic component and all of those things like, having better sleep, having, you know, choosing those foods that are actually their rocket fuel, um, especially if they're recuperating or trying to overcome an ailment, that extra effort is extra important in those times. And that's an energy input. And sometimes people are a little bit flatlined when they first come in. Uh, and so it's really important on my part to make sure that that assessment is giving them the steps and the tools that are manageable. And the next time for a follow-up, you suddenly see that shift has started to occur. They're just feeling lighter, feeling brighter, and they're ready to tackle a step that's a little bit bigger. So it's um it's kind of a long roundabout answer to your question, but
That's good.
you know, it's nuanced, right? And that's a lot of my responsibility is to gauge and understand that.
The other part of that too, I want to touch on is we talked about this off air as well, but I mean, you go, go, go. Like I'll go, go,
Mhm.
go, and then why am I
Yeah.
tired? Why is my energy low? Well, you've overdone it. And I think that's the other
Mhm.
part that we sometimes forget as we age to moderate that, you know what I mean? To look at what you can make it a capable day, don't overshoot. Right? Like, so that you're still ready to go the next day. And I think sometimes we're all guilty of that a little bit. It's just recharging those batteries and a little bit of downtime, it's critical, especially with that energy level, to keep it at a performance level that you want it to be at.
Yeah, yeah. It's the reality of things, and you have areas of the world where people, live to 120 and they're still out for walks every day, without canes and without, rollators or these sorts of things. And it's like, well, what's the big difference here? And so much of that is that they're not isolated. They have purpose, right? Their nutritional intake is maybe cleaner than what we might experience. The air, the water, there's the sunshine. There are a lot of different factors that play in there, but yeah, it's having a true sense of what we should be expecting from ourselves. Definitely doing that recharge, and we have to recharge ourselves. If you're judging yourself more harshly than you would judge anybody else that you know or care about, then why is that? That looks like a good talking point. Why do you think that you need to, that's something that if you're not honoring your body by allowing it when it tells you that it's needing a rest, what's that about? So it's yeah, honoring the body differently. That Yeah, I don't know. I like being over 60. I have to say that
There you go.
and it's refreshing in a lot of ways because um I do honor myself more differently now than I ever did in the past. And it doesn't mean that I don't have expectations, but I also have the ability to shift differently than I might have at one point. Just ignoring what my body's screaming at me. And then you're, down and out for a couple of days because I used to be the migraine queen. That's why they called me Barbarometer. And it's literally just pushing through when the body was sending me all of these, warning signs yeah. So you either listen or you get to
You
be
deal with
flat
it.
out for a
Yeah.
little bit.
The
Mhm.
last one I want to touch base on that we haven't talked about is dealing with other people's negative energy. I think that can be, it's so destructive to yourself when you're trying to carry that other load or help somebody that's, just, is drawing from your battery. You talked about that. And I just think
Hmm.
that's another area where I think as you age, you kind of go, nope, not for me. I'm out. But I think a lot of people still get stuck, trying to help other folks that maybe are putting negative energy out there on them.
It's a huge topic, right? Because we're also aging into the area of our lives where we're seeing a lot of people that may be caregiver to somebody else, and whether it's a spouse, whether it's a parent, those sorts of things. And that steady draw of your own energy, there has to be a balance. You can't change the situation or the circumstance, perhaps. Maybe you can bring in, people get really stuck on pride. And again, that judgment of themselves that they can do it all. And there's a reason 67% of caregivers die before the person they're taking care of.
Yeah.
So if it's a situation where the expenditure is beyond your capacity and it's starting to take a toll on yourself, then the strong people recognize that that's when they need to bring in other resources to help themselves. Um, and that's it. People do struggle with that. People do struggle that, they've been capable their whole lives. They've been the role model and the one that can do it all. And that plays a little bit with their sense of self. Um, so yeah, that can be a tricky one, Dave, for sure. Um, but there are a lot of resources nowadays, and I really encourage people to take advantage of those. Talk to a friend. It doesn't have to be an hour out of the house to recharge yourself. It can be 5 minutes done several times a day even, giving yourself permission to have that soak in the tub, giving yourself permission to have that run, giving yourself, you don't need that permission when you understand that that is literally what you need to do to preserve yourself. So yeah, preservation is it's something that if we run on batteries,
Yeah, exactly.
and, your cell phone, how's it going to serve you if you leave it
Always.
unplugged?
Yeah.
We're no different. We have to find a way to recharge. And so that self-examination part of it to see what charges you up the best and most sustainably, There's quick charges, there's gallons of coffee, there's, people use all these Red Bull,
Yeah.
you know, electrolytes, folks,
Sleep,
electrolytes.
sleep.
Yeah. So it's just examine all aspects of your life. Compartmentalize. Will somebody live or die if I do or don't do this? Can I control this? Did I cause this? Can I fix it? Can I control it? If you can't, why is it taking all your time and energy worrying about it? And then, so it's acceptance of different things, it's prioritizing, but it's having the wisdom to know, because if something's the matter being a physical sort of thing, it settles in the matter if we don't address it. So it can become a physical condition when we aren't addressing these things properly. And those are the things that as we age, we start to realize with different chronic ailments. The chronic part is not that it needs to be permanent. The chronic part is that we haven't done anything to change the outcome. And that's one of the things that I happen to be really good at, helping people determine and help them find the steps to shift out of that, whether it's a digestive issue, you know, it's those things don't have to reside in our bodies. We just have to figure out what the body's telling us, what those symptoms are, those little things before it becomes something really, really major.
Exactly, you nailed it. How do people get a hold of you?
So you can text or call at 519-410-3544. Can email at barb at healthywellandwise.ca. Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you.
If you get that low energy, folks, give Barb a call. Let her talk to you. You can talk to her, and she can talk to you, and we can figure this whole thing out. Great chat today. Thanks for doing this.
You're welcome, Dave.